Good evening, guys. Luke here of SimBoxx. I'm delighted to bring the first ever episode of Let's Talk Boxing live to Instagram. You know, we usually record this as a podcast, but for something different, we are bringing it live on Instagram. We're going to discuss a few of the ongoing situations in boxing, and we're going to have Ewan Breeze. You can follow Ewan on Twitter at Rebel Boxing, of course. So we're really looking forward to getting this episode out there for our followers to listen to. So we'll get Ewan joined and then we'll crack on with the episode. Of course, we'd like to wish all our followers the best during these difficult times. You know, the coronavirus has been horrendous, and we're trying our best to keep sure that we're getting plenty of content out there for you guys. You know, the SimBoxx Talks 2 series has been booming the past couple of weeks, and there's plenty more on the way too. So Ewan's about to join the chat here, so we'll welcome him in. I think he should be here in a second.
There we go. Hi, Luke, you alright?
How are we doing?
Yeah, not so bad. I've got a terrible haircut. I've got it myself because I'm about 6 weeks away from the barbers. So other than that, I'm alright. Yeah, what about yourself?
Yeah, all good, thanks, mate. You know, it's just a really difficult time, and you know, there's no other way to put it. You know, it's everyone's going through a really difficult time, and I think it's just one of those situations where, you know, no matter where you are in the social spectrum, you're affected by it all the same. You know, whether you're professional boxers, professional footballers, or your everyday bloke on the street. You know, we're all affected by it the same way, and it's just a really difficult time. You know, as I've just been saying a second ago, we're trying our best with SimBoxx, you know, to get enough content out, regular content, quality content, just to kind of play our part and keep everyone preoccupied and entertained as much as possible.
Yeah, it's totally bizarre, but nobody's got any experience of what it's like. It's alien to everyone, and like I say, it's affecting every area. So it is bizarre. But like I say, we've had some absolutely brilliant content. I spoke to Martin Harkin. It was brilliant. It was really, really out there. And you know, he's like, I was asking him about big names like Conor Benn and stuff. And he's like, I'll beat them all. Like, you know, we've actually like really people pushing themselves and their brand, as well as, you know, us pushing our obviously articles and everything out there. Fighters are really keen to get stuck in during this time because they're really frustrated at home.
Definitely. So, you know, if we break into the podcast as we usually would, you know, we have our regular topics as we like to break down and get into. And I think the best place for us to start, and I know it's one that you'll be very jubilant to talk about, of course, is the Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder fight, the epic conclusion to that fight. I can see the excitement in your face already. I think we'll start off with looking back on what was like a brilliant victory for Tyson Fury.
Absolutely, and I hate to say I told you so, but I picked Tyson Fury from the very beginning, and most of our team, Alex, Sean, you, all picked Wilder. They said it's a big knockout. Tyson Fury, he got away with it the last time, he won't get away with it again, and he proved everyone wrong. I got so much heat for saying that Tyson could knock him out and might knock him out, and he went and he absolutely destroyed him. Just absolutely wrote him off. And no, I was so happy. I was absolutely ecstatic. 6 a.m, jumping around, shouting, waking everyone up. Oh, it was what a night, what a performance. One of the best wins by a British fighter on away soil. It's up there with Lloyd Honeyghan for me. It was that good.
Oh, 100%. You know, it was the manner of victory. You know, when I was picking Wilder, I was trying to pick it. When I did pick Wilder, I was trying to base it on pure facts. You know, the fact that Wilder was so efficient and so effective in rematches, so much more destructive in rematches. You know, when he fought Bermane Stiverne for the second time and Luis Ortiz for the second time, it was a lot more conclusive in the finish. But it was the way Fury stood in front of the biggest, hardest, heaviest hitting heavyweight of all time, as if it was nothing. He could have been stood in front of a flyweight for what it was worth. He just wasn't worried about what was coming back, and the body shots and the big shots from Fury, Wilder had no answer for it.
Yeah, I look back for when was the last time we had a body shot knockdown in a heavyweight title fight, and I think it's Tyson Spinks. I think it goes back that far, and Spinks was already hurt. He was going down, and Tyson hit him with a body shot and put him down. But that 5th round, nothing has been as clean as that since for a long time.
It was like something out of a Marvel Avengers film, as if like he was literally blown off his feet. It wasn't like a stumble. He was clean off his feet from a body shot. It was an amazing sight to see. You know, and like I say, I was proud of Tyson Fury. You know, I'm not, you know, his biggest fan, but I'll always support the Brit. His story's amazing, and that performance elevated him to a clear number one in the heavyweight division, of course. It was a momentous occasion. But if we move on to the third fight, of course, it's going to happen. You know, it's been pushed back from July. It's looking like it's going to be October. Good shot there by Callum Bremner. Shout out to Callum. Dave Allen dropping Lucas Brown with a body shot. That might have been...
Wasn't a heavyweight title fight, though.
Oh, so it wasn't a heavyweight title fight, of course. Yeah, so obviously the third fight, the third instalment of the Fury Wilder saga, looks like it's going to be taking place in October.
I know, it's obviously, we were looking like we were going to get it in July, which obviously is not happening now. But I think that you know, I just can't see it going any other way. You know what I mean? Fury he can beat him, go on the back foot boxing. He's proved that in the first one. He won the first one, and he can go forward. He can smash him to pieces. What Wilder is a confidence fighter. So Sonny Liston, famously a confidence fighter. You know, it was a bully. He was mean. He was horrible. Foreman the first time out, mean, horrible bully. Deontay Wilder, mean, horrible bully. Knocks everyone out. As soon as they get hit, they don't know how to cope. George Foreman had a mental breakdown in the changing room after the Jimmy Young fight, which was 2 after Ali. Just couldn't cope in his head with being not invincible. Sonny Liston ended up dying under horrendous circumstances in a motel room in Las Vegas. I'm not sure it was Las Vegas now, but in these horrendous circumstances because he couldn't deal psychologically with being bullied himself as the bully. And Deontay Wilder's exactly the same. Tyson Fury, who's not notoriously the bully, went out and bullied him. And I think Wilder can only get worse, and Tyson Fury is only staying the same or getting better. If you keep winning, you keep that mentality. You're pushing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I think, you know, the one thing with Wilder is, you know, he might come a little bit more prepared for a different game plan from Fury, which he didn't have the first time, because even us as fans, we didn't believe that Tyson Fury was going to go in there and fight the fight that he did. We thought it was all, you know, smoke, and he was going to revert to type and outbox the puncher, which seemed to be on paper the best opportunity he had of getting the victory. So yeah, of course, I do think Fury will get better. I think he's reaching his prime. He's probably just about touching his prime now, whereas you can't really gauge where Wilder's prime's at, because including Luis Ortiz, you know, give or take your opinion on Ortiz, but Ortiz and Fury are his only elite top level opponents, so you don't really know when Wilder peaked, if that makes sense. So it's difficult to say when he's getting better or not.
Athletes tend to peak kind of that late 20s period, and Deontay Wilder didn't have a serious fight until he was gone 30.
Yep.
He was so late in his progression that I don't know if we saw the best, say the Spilka fight or something like that, where he was kind of just at 30, but he was fighting sub-caliber opponents. Spilka was a blown-up cruiser, and he was European level at best at cruiserweight. So
Spilka was outboxing for the first 6 rounds as well.
Exactly. So you see that thing of you're not sure whether or not he is able to get to those heights.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not if he'd have fought a Fury at that point, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, it's what ifs, because in that first fight he seemed pretty good, and like he could land killer blows and stuff. So you never know. But I can't see him just bouncing back and going back up, especially at his age. What is he now? 34, 35?
Yeah, definitely. So I think for the good of the division as well, we'd want to see another Fury win, because, you know, imagine what if Deontay Wilder knocks out Tyson Fury in October, then we're going to be looking at a 4th bout, and it pushes an undisputed bout, the fact that we all want and need, even further away, you know, and by that point, you know, who knows what might happen. You know, the fight needs to happen now. You know, the Wilder Joshua fight needed to happen 18 months ago, and that didn't happen. So now that we've got Fury and Joshua, 2 British boxers, it needs to happen now. We can't be waiting if, you know, Wilder was to somehow pull a victory out the bag in the 3rd fight. You know, it'd only push the undisputed fight further away, and that's something that we don't want as fans of boxing.
Especially as British fans of boxing.
Yeah.
You know, we had a 98, 97 year drought between 1897 when Bob Fitzsimmons won the championship, and then when Lennox Lewis won it again.
Yeah.
You know, for nearly the entirety of the 20th century, Britain didn't have a heavyweight champion. Now we've got 2, and they're the best 2 fighters in the world. And it's a unique opportunity to have an undisputed fight, WBA, WBO, IBF, and IBO against WBC and lineal heavyweight champion of the world, and Ring Magazine heavyweight champion of the world. All the belts in the heavyweight division, all of them in one pot. Wembley Stadium, 95,000 people. Doesn't
You
get
sold
better
it to me there, Ewan. Absolutely sold it to me there. Sign me up now. So, yeah.
As well, mate.
Yeah, so, sticking with the heavyweight division, a recent beef that's developed on social media, not of the ilk of Fury Wilder, and I can see the eye roll there straight away. Lucas Brown and Glenn McCrory, that came from nowhere.
Glenn McCrory's last fight was in 1993. It's 4 years before I was born.
Yeah.
It was when the last time Glenn McCrory went in the ring.
Unbelievable.
What's he doing calling out heavyweights? What is he doing calling out heavyweights? I know Lucas Brown's not top tier, but what is he doing?
Yeah, it
he's
just
clearly getting bored.
I think since McCrory left Sky, he seems to be a lot more active on social media, and he tends to put a lot more of his feelings out there and his opinions out there. And this time it just seemed that he wanted to pick a fight with Lucas Brown, and he went on to offer him out and offer him a straightener.
It's mental. It's mental. Everyone's going mental in this. When everyone's cooped up, everyone is going absolutely mental. It's
hilarious.
Yeah. But it looks like Father Christmas now, Glenn McCrory. Like, he's got no business fighting anyone.
I think, if we was to get anything close to a Glenn McCrory in his prime, I think he'd be more than happy to take on Lucas Brown, any version of Lucas Brown as well.
I think I favour him against the Lucas Brown, but again, it's farcical now. But
100%. Yeah,
no,
100%.
I think in his prime, Glenn McCrory would have given him a world of trouble. But those days are very much gone.
Yeah. So let's look at some of the bouts that have been postponed. Unfortunately, we're missing out on some great fights. Unfortunately, with the whole coronavirus situation, it can't be helped. It's all walks of life that have been affected, and us as boxing fans and as a boxing social media platform, we're going to miss out on a lot of top quality fights. Just this past weekend, we were meant to get the David Avanesian and Josh Kelly fight, which was a great fight. In a couple of weeks' time, we would have had the huge heavyweight European, British, and Commonwealth title fight between Daniel Dubois and the juggernaut Joe Joyce. The list is endless. So I think if we just look at some of the more prominent bouts that was to take place and how we see them being repositioned further down the year. So if we start with Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce, that's been rescheduled for July 11th.
Good.
Yeah.
It's just gutting, but I think it was an absolutely massive domestic fight, the like we've not had since say Lewis and Bruno, in terms of there's such rising prospects, good prospects. And, whichever one wins, they've got title futures. They will challenge for a title or win a title without a doubt. Even Joe Joyce at his advanced age, he's good enough to challenge for world titles. And again, like Fury and AJ, they're both British as well. We've got four of the best heavyweights, probably top 15, maybe top 10. Four of the best,
Yeah, Chuck Dillon White in there as well. Yeah, we Chuck Dillon White in there as well. And, we've got five of the top 15 at least, if not higher. It's gutting that fight's been postponed, because Joe Joyce hasn't got time on his side. I think he needs the biggest fights as soon as possible. I was surprised that he took the Dubois fight. I think there's a lot more on the line for Joe Joyce in terms of recovering from a loss rather than Daniel Dubois. I think Daniel Dubois has got much more time. He's 22 years of age. He can recover from a loss a lot quicker than Joe Joyce could. So that makes it such an exciting fight, and hopefully it does take place in July, because if we look at another 6 months after that down the line and Joe Joyce ticks over to 35, 36, the moment might pass.
Absolutely, it is a bummer, especially for someone whose time is absolutely of the essence for Joe Joyce, as you say. And it's one of those where it's like in the same way when AJ fought Klitschko. It's like is the veteran catching him? Is the veteran still got enough left? Or is the prospect catching him maybe too soon? And it's it is exactly that fight. And this was exactly the right time to have it. And, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months, and it becomes not the right time to have it anymore. And it probably every day it goes on longer, it favours Daniel Dubois, who is learning his craft. Yeah. But you don't want to see the fights where Daniel Dubois is almost certain to win. You want to see the fights where it's a true 50-50. And had it happened this weekend, it would have been a true 50-50.
Yeah, 100%. Looking at it, if it happens on July 11th, how do you see that fight going down?
I personally do think Dubois is the real deal. I was very sceptical before the Gorman fight, and I actually picked Gorman to win. I thought, the boxer, he's just a raw puncher. Dubois, he can get out tripped, outsmarted, but he outboxed Gorman in that fight, and I'm a believer now. I think he's the next big thing in British heavyweight boxing. I really do. And Joe Joyce is very, very good, but he sticks that big chin out. And I know it's granite chin, but when an 18-stone man starts hitting you, especially if you've got power of a Daniel Dubois, I can't see it. I think he'll give him a torrid time, Joe Joyce, but I only see one winner myself.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you to a point. I think I see it going one of two ways, and both outcomes lead to a Dubois stoppage. So I think we could see a Dubois inside 2 rounds where he just catches Joe Joyce cold, and Joyce over exaggerates his ability to take a punch, and the punches that he's faced up until now have got nothing on Daniel Dubois' power. And I know he's got like the amateur background and the WBSS history and stuff like that, but there's nothing like Daniel Dubois, in terms of sheer power. Or if Daniel Dubois doesn't come out all guns blazing early doors, I can see it getting pushed into round 6, 7, 8. Dubois slowing slightly. Joe Joyce has got a tremendous punch output for a heavyweight, and I see him getting countered late. So I see it either going really, really early for Dubois or mid to late for Dubois. Either way, I see a Dubois KO victory.
Yeah, I think I'd subscribe to the second one more because of his granite chin and his output. Yeah. I think he'll be able to survive the first few, the early onslaught, and then kind of think that he's getting in his stride and then just leave himself open. I think that you can't count out someone who's got the pedigree of Joyce, that's been in the ring with the likes of an Usyk and Tony Yoka and people like that. He knows how to box and he'll try himself, but I think it's I think, like you say, I'm inclined to agree that it's almost certain to be a Dubois victory.
Yeah, definitely. The other fight that I mentioned, I want to touch on, it's already been postponed in the past. David Avanesian, European welterweight champion, and pretty boy Josh Kelly. He's such a mouth-watering prospect, and such a great fight, and it's just absolutely gutting to see that it's been postponed again. What's your thoughts on that fight?
I'm in the minority here, and I don't think it'd be very competitive at all. I think if Josh Kelly boxes anything like he's boxing his last couple of fights, David Avanesian will have him out of there in a couple of rounds. I think Josh Kelly has to show significant improvement to have a chance. I have it 70-30, 80-20 towards Avanesian. Avanesian's in the renaissance of his career. He's banging out people people think Kerman Laranja was a bit of a joke, but he's not. Kerman Laranja was a very, very good fighter, and David Avanesian absolutely knocked him.
Well, he stopped a couple of British fighters. Was it a couple of fringe contenders from Britain? Was it Frankie Gavin? He stopped Frankie Gavin, and was it Bradley Skeet as well? I think he boxed Bradley Skeet. Was it?
I wouldn't be able to tell you, but that sounds right. And Frankie Gavin's no slouch. He's one of our best ever amateurs.
Yeah, so there was a couple of victories there, and Avis beat the man that beat the guys. So I think it was meant to be around 2 years ago now, 18 months ago, something like that, when it was first scheduled on the Kell Brook card. He was on the undercard there, and Josh Kelly pulled out in the morning of the fight, which he's never received well from fighters, promoters, or fans. And the bad blood was instilled there, and it was going to lead to a great rivalry. It's bubbled up, but in the time since the fight was postponed the first time, Avanesian's career has gone up and up on an upward trajectory, whereas Kelly has stagnated. He really has. The Ray Robinson fight, he was lucky to get away with a draw, and every other victory since then has looked bang average. I still think this will bring the best out of him. Hopefully he's the kind of fighter where he does need better opponents to bring out the best in him. And if Avanesian can do that with Kelly, then we're in for a treat as fans. I'm going to slightly disagree with you on the point that I do think Josh will be better on the night, therefore I make it a 50-50 fight. But I can't pick a clear winner.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what you said is the general consensus. And again, like you say, if Kelly is the sort of fighter, if he's the sort of, like I say, like a Billy Joe Saunders, you can pull it out the bag when he needs to, you're right. But I'm just looking at the last 3 fights of both, and Kelly's been bang average at best. He's a British level welterweight, and David Avanesian has been the best he's ever looked in his entire career. And he's had power in both hands. He's been fast. He's been on it. He's been accurate. I'm picking it off those two. And, you know, like I say, against like, what was he called? Ray Robinson, who was not nearly as good as his namesake. But I thought he lost that fight. Do you know what I mean? I thought Josh Kelly had already lost that fight. I can't argue with that. Yeah. I just think he's wasting his potential. And I think that Adam Booth style against David Avanesian, sticking your chin in the air, is a daft thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Avanesian on the undercard of Joe Hughes out in Spain. Did a debut at the DAZN in Spain, and he blitzed. I mean, he wasn't anywhere near a high-profile contender, but I can't remember the Del Rio or something like that. And Avanesian walked him down from the first bell. I think he put him down 2 or 3 times in the first round, and it was all over within the first 3 minutes. It's the resurgence, the renaissance, the second wind in his career is absolutely thrilling to watch, and you know, I'm a big fan. And Josh Kelly can't drop his hands against him. He can't keep him low. He can't showboat the way he has, and we've not really seen Josh Kelly bite down his gum shield and have a dogfight, and that's what he's going to have to do here. And what an opposition to try and have your first dogfight against.
Absolutely. Shout out to Neil Marsh as well, who has come out of the blue to be one of boxing's best comedians. That
absolutely hilarious,
brilliant performance, just ripping Adam Booth an absolute new one at that press conference. I was in stitches. Yeah, Neil Marsh, what a legend.
Definitely. So the next topic I wanted to touch on, you know, and it's the darker side of boxing, if you like, the not so savoury side, depending on how you want to look at it. We'll start off with the Billy Joe Saunders situation. Now, I will state that this is something we're going to go into depth with tomorrow with Southwest Boxing Media. You know, shout out the guys at Scott and Kieran at Southwest Boxing Media. We're going to do a joint venture with them tomorrow on Instagram Live. And we're going to look at the Billy Joe Saunders situation in more depth. But what's your brief take on that situation?
I get frustrated because do I think he is condoning domestic abuse generally? Do I think he's saying everybody should hit their wife and stuff? No, I don't. I probably don't. But is it a horribly bad taste joke? Is it totally inappropriate? Is it absolutely ridiculous as a thing to say, and even worse a thing to put out on social media? It's not funny, it's disgusting, and it's just ridiculously daft. I don't think Billy Joe is probably meant it like that. I thought, he thinks he's Jack the Lad, but actually it's disgusting, and he's a professional athlete, and whatever ban he gets, he deserves, because it's ridiculous. Someone needs to take his phone off him. Someone needs to stop. He needs to get a media company to do his social media. Say, Bill, it's not fucking funny. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's horrible. Saying that, it's horrible. You know, it's a really, really serious issue. And he made light of it, and he was joking about, and it's just not funny. And it's as simple as that. He needs a social media manager who does all his social media. He needs his phone disabling from Twitter and Instagram and stuff, because he's just going to do it again. He's done it so many times before, and he's just going to do it again. And it's. Yeah. I just think he's been a bit thick about it, and he just gets bored, I think, and just does outrageous shit. And yeah, what he said in the video is absolutely abominable. But do I think he's a horrible, horrible person? Probably not. Yeah. I think he's just got horrendous taste in jokes. Yeah.
Now, the second point I want to touch on, you know, and it's been across social media the past 24 hours or so, equally as frustrating, equally as baffling, is Scott Fitzgerald. I just don't understand what's going on with Fitzy. You know, he's got such a great talent, you know, and he had the great a pair of victories against Fowler and Cheeseman, and he established himself as number one at 154 pounds domestically. You know, I wanted to go and see him fight Garcia and take the European title, which that's a fight that I think he can win. But then from out of nowhere, you just hear these murmurings and these mumblings of his behaviour out of the ring, and of course his nickname's the Madman. So you know what can we expect? You know, what should we expect with that kind of nickname? But yeah, his behaviour over the past 24, 48 hours or so has again left a bit of a sour taste in the mouth.
Yeah, again, it's the same thing. I think he needs to stop surrounding himself with yes men. I think that people that just go, "Oh, Scott, yeah, go and do it, it'll be funny." He's the sort of person, he's got that sort of personality where he'll try and play up to it, and he'll be Jack the Lad, and he'll do these ridiculous things and, you know, hurt people. And if the picture of his ex-partners, if that's you know, obviously that's horrendous. That's not behaviour. That's behaviour that should lead to a custodial sentence. It's not on. But I think he is, again, I think he's a susceptible personality, and I think hanging around with that crowd in Preston of, oh yeah, go on, Fitzy will do it, it's just leading him down a path which is going to lead to a prison cell rather than a world title fight. And I think he's destroying his own career in the process. But I hope he gets help, and I hope he uses his talent back in the ring. I hope he pays his dues to the people that he's hurt and pays the money back, or pays the money, or, you know, just apologises at least, and, you know, really makes an effort and gets back in the ring and gets back clean, because he appears to be drunk all the time. And I just think that it is a shame. It's a wasted talent. But as long as he just needs to get his life back on track and stop hanging around with idiots in Preston who tell him to do stupid stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, he's right on the cusp of breaking through, you know, making some serious cash, making some serious headway on world scene. You know, he's well within his rights to believe that a victory against Sergio Garcia, which is well within his capabilities, will lead to, you know, a world title eliminator, a final eliminator, maybe, you know, big domestic fight with Liam Smith or Kell Brook, if Kell Brook was still around at 154. And it's just all in front of him, and you're almost pulling your hair out in frustration, because I'm a big fan of Scott Fitzgerald. To be fair, with the triangle between Fitzgerald, Cheeseman and Anthony Fowler, I'm a big fan of all three men. You know, there's not one that I prefer above the other, you know, and to see those guys go around in a triangle, round robin kind of situation was fascinating to watch. And I'd hate to see Fitzgerald not capitalise on the victories that he's had against Cheeseman and Fowler. You know, if you used to go back 18 months, 2 years maybe, and predict that Fitzgerald would come on top out of those three, you know, you wouldn't have had many people agreeing with you. But here we are. You know, he took the fights, he won the fights, and I just hope that he can get past this. Like you say, if he can get back on track, everything's there in front of him to go and achieve. And, you know, hopefully Scott Fitzgerald, you know, gets past his out-ring demons.
Yeah, it's just horrible. And like I say, but if you're out the gym and you're mucking around, you're spending nights in prison cells and you're out drinking, two of that, Fitzgerald and Fowler and Cheeseman are two of the hardest workers in the sport. They are grinding every single day. When you're out on the piss, they're in the gym. And it will catch up with him. And if he gets back at that level, a Sergio Garcia will stop him, a Fowler will stop him, a Cheeseman will stop him. If he rematches those two, or if he takes on a Garcia and he's not trained, he's not switched on, he's going to get done in those fights, and it's going to be his own fault because he's more talented than them.
Yeah, definitely. So another one that crept out the woodwork that kind of came from left field. You know, there's been murmurings on one side, but of course, you know, the challenge is always going to chase the champion. And they're making reference to Bob Arum's comments on a possible Kell Brook challenge for Terence Crawford. You know, I'm lost for words with this. I think Crawford now against Kell Brook is not a competitive fight at 147. I think the whole idea that Kell Brook moving up to 154 because it was easier for him to make weight, why would he go back on that? I know it's a great fight with Crawford, but Crawford is a different animal at welterweight, you know, and does Kell Brook need that kind of trouble, if you like, at this stage of his career? You know, I don't know. What's your take on it, Ewan?
Can't catch a break, can he, Kel? Sean Porter in the States, Gennady Golovkin at middleweight, Errol Spence at welterweight, and then Crawford at welterweight. It's an absolute killer's row in it. And I love Kell to bits. I think he's a great fighter. And I think on his day, he's a great fighter, and he's competitive. And I think even for a couple of rounds at the beginning of this one, if it takes place, he'll be competitive. He'll fight like hell because that's who he is. But the gap in class between Brook at this stage of his career and Crawford is insurmountable for me. I don't think there's any way you can bridge that gap and find a way to think Crawford punches harder, he's stronger, he's fitter. It's just, and that's not a reflection. It's not slight on Kell. It's just how it is. Crawford's pound for pound, and Kell's at the tail end of his career as a junior middleweight rather than a welterweight. It's a really tough one for me, and it'll be horrible watching, I'm sure.
I think one of the crazy things with Kell Brook, you know, considering that he's been aligned with Eddie Hearn for so long, is he's been so frustratingly mismanaged throughout his career. You know, you rattle off the four big names that he's won. Like the Porter win looks better and better with time because of how good Sean Porter is operating now, and the fact that he went on to win a WBC world title. But then he lost to Gennady Golovkin and lost bad to Golovkin. He lost bad to Spence, and now we're looking at Crawford. But if you offset that against Kevin Bizier, Jojo Dan, Frankie Gavin, Zarafa, you know, there's just not been a. It's almost like they've kind of stumbled from fight to fight, and you know, and we like to consider Eddie as the preeminent boxing promoter in England or British boxing, and to say Kell Brook, such a talented, marketable fighter, such a skillful fighter, you know, he ticks all the boxes. To say that he's had a mismanaged career when he's a former world champion, he's only lost to the best, kind of sounds a little bit alien, but I genuinely believe that he's been mismanaged and he's been thrown into the easy fights and the tough fights at the wrong time. There was no kind of plan or build to the biggest fights of his career, and the mandatory challenges that he took when he was RBF welterweight champion of the world was subpar and didn't give him the right kind of challenges to lead up to an elite level fight.
Absolutely. I'm writing this week's Throwback Thursday piece about Errol Bomber Graham and same gym, Brendan Ingle, you know, Sheffield fighter, and it's just, I've been watching back his fights and he's unbelievably talented, and Kell's the same. But Bomber Graham had 7 years in the 1980s where he couldn't get a shot at the world title. Just chronically, he was having a dispute. Brendan Ingle was having a dispute with Mickey Duff, and he was kept out of the limelight. And it seems the same thing. He just can't get past that last hurdle. And then to circumvent that, he's taking these ridiculous fights like Golovkin. And it's like, why would you do that? Why on earth would you go and take the most fierce middleweight on just to try and get around it? And it was the same thing with Bomber Graham. He's like, oh, I'm a bit in this lost place. I'll take Julian Jackson. Do you know what I mean? And they end up in, do you know what I mean? They end up in this place where it's kind of eerie similarities of these amazingly talented fighters, charismatic individuals who just end up in the wilderness of boxing because they haven't picked the right fights at the right times.
Yeah, it's such a frustrating predicament. And you know, the interesting thing is that Kell Brook, after the Sean Porter fight against Terence Crawford, is a great fight. You know, Kell Brook at his best. You know, I thought the Sean Porter fight again was a brilliant win. And I thought on the back of that, you know, we could have looked at a Mayweather fight, we could have looked at a Pacquiao fight. Unfortunately, it just didn't materialise for whatever reason. You know, the whole incident with him being stabbed, we'll never know the true reasons why that happened. We never got a backstory to that. You know, there's a lot of hearsay on social media. You know, you can only take so much from that, and it's such a shame. You know, and I'd love nothing more to see Kell Brook upset the odds and beat Crawford. I really would. You know, I think it'd be a brilliant story. It'd be a much deserved victory as well. As it stands, as you say, Crawford's pound for pound. You know, he's right up there. He demolished everyone at lightweight. He moves up to 140, and he was undisputed at 140, and beat some really good fighters, and beat them well. And then he's moved up to 147. He's not had a great run at 147. You know, he's beat the guys that he's supposed to beat, and this is something that I was going to lead on to, is the fact that Kell Brook at 147 could be Crawford's best win at welterweight. As shot as Kell Brook might be, on paper, Kell Brook would be Crawford's best defence of his WBO welterweight title.
I think he'd be on level pegging with Khan, who's his best win at the moment, and that's not saying much. And I think that's less to do with Terence Crawford not fighting people, but more people not wanting to fight Terence Crawford. But Amir Khan is his best win at the moment, and Kell Brook would maybe be slightly better or slightly worse. I think it's
very close.
He needs to fight the best guys, and the best guys in America are all PBC fighters, and they're all refusing to fight him, or Al Heyman's telling them to refuse to fight him. And he's not getting even a Danny Garcia. He's not getting an Errol Spence. He's not getting the Sean Porter. He's not getting the best guys at welterweight in the States because he's the top rank and everybody else is with PBC and Al Heyman.
Yeah.
And he's in this position where he's just got shipping opponents. You know, it was Jeff Horn first, and then it was Khan, and then it will be Brook, who, you know, they're decent fighters, three former champions, but they're not the same caliber as the current top guys. And
yeah, definitely. I think it's a case of
it's frustrating for him.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and he kind of can make comparisons to Kell Brook when Kell Brook was IBF champion, and he was searching for that big fight after Sean Porter, to the way Crawford now is undeniably capable of beating some of the names that you've just mentioned. You know, your Sean Porters, your Danny Garcias, your Keith Thurmans, maybe even Manny Pacquiao. You know, the true 50-50 fight in that division, of course, is Crawford and Spence Jr. And that just, again, with Spence's out of the ring antics, are we ever going to get a Crawford and a Spence not only in the ring but in the prime? Is that fight forever lost now? Is that ever forever going to be consigned to the what if annals of boxing?
Absolutely, and you never know. And it's like, look, Spence is another one. He can go in with Fitzy and Billy Joe for being an absolute idiot and ruining his own career by.
Yeah, I think we can make a podcast just on those three.
I know, and he's one of the preeminent talents out of the United States. He's an excellent boxer, and he's a boxer, he's a puncher, he's fantastic. But he's going to blow his own career in a way that the guys like Terence Crawford who live in the gym aren't. So it's another frustrating one, but yeah. We can't have a podcast just about people on the piss.
But yeah, I actually think we're going to see Kell Crawford. It's not going to surprise me. Something I just want to touch on. It's something that we've put out today for SimBoxx. Kieran Gethin, the Welsh boxer. He's always been great with us at SimBoxx. We've had interviews with him. We've had phone interviews. We've done articles on his career. SimBoxx Talks too. And we supported him in the Golden Contract tournament as well. He's recently released a book. It's available on Amazon. All the links and information is available on Kieran's social media and on our social media. And I'm delighted to announce that we are doing a giveaway in conjunction with Kieran Gethin, which you can get a copy of his signed book. And all you have to do, if you go over to our social media channel on Twitter, at SimBoxx, you follow us, you follow Kieran Gethin, he's at Kiwi Gethin. Retweet our post, you'll find all the relevant information on our pin tweet. And on Saturday, 12 o'clock, we will be announcing a winner, and we'll send you out a free signed copy of Kieran Gethin's new book. And if you unfortunately don't win, the links will also be there to find his book on Amazon. You can help support Kieran as he continues. £140, I think he's campaigning at now. He tends to fluctuate between 135 and 140 and 147. But yeah, he's a great guy, Kieran. We thank him for his donation for the giveaway, and hopefully our guys check it out and somebody can win themselves a free signed book.
Absolutely, yeah. It should be a great read. I'm going to get myself a copy.
Yeah, 100%. Also, we have, as you well know, we transitioned over to Facebook recently. Hopefully we'll find ourselves a new pool of interactions and followers and allow people to see our work and the hard work that we do put in as a team. So, people can find us at SimBoxx on Facebook as well. Hopefully that's a new channel for us, a new avenue of content, and we continue to deliver top quality regular boxing content.
Absolutely, and like I say, we've got even more coming this week. We've got how many SimBoxx Talks do you lined up? 6, is it now? And then I've got a history article coming out on Thursday, tomorrow. So yeah, all is looking good. Definitely get on the Facebook.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that I'm really proud of as SimBoxx, and the way the team's come together at such a difficult time. And Ben and Bobby and yourself and Lee contributing some really, really good content. Lee Clayton, of course, for people that don't know, he recently joined the team at SimBoxx. It's invaluable knowledge and experience, and first-hand knowledge and experience of being in the ring. And we've already tapped into that already, as you well know. Messaging him behind the scenes, and I think Lee's a great addition to an already budding and successful team.
Absolutely. Some of the insights he's given us on the group chat even today, talking about his fight with Yafai, and it's really interesting to hear about. And I can't wait for everybody else to hear it the way we have been.
Yeah, definitely. And a special mention to the guys over in the States as well. We've got Jason Peters and Alex Pearl. Again, bring content when we need it. Big fight previews, and Alex recently has been sending over one-off articles. One on Billy Joe Saunders, funnily enough. One on Alexander Usyk. Really fascinating reads, and it's good to have feet on the ground over in the States and bringing that first-hand knowledge of otherwise content that we'd struggle to get. A different angle on things and a different opinion on boxing in the States.
Yeah, absolutely. It's because you can't often get, so a lot of the PBC stuff as well, they have it exclusively marketed in the States, and we don't really understand how they perceive stuff a lot of the time. And Jason especially and Alex, they give a really kind of cutting insight into our kind of very British view of boxing.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we'll switch over now to I'll give you the lead here. I think we have some follower questions from our Twitter following. They're going to bring up some topics for us to debate there.
Yeah, so it started off to do with all of the, obviously, everything being cancelled, the virus and everything. The first one was, would you be happy with events going on behind closed doors, or do you want the situation completely resolved before we have boxing back? That That was the first question. That was at Mojo Rising on Twitter.
Yeah, shout out to Mojo. My opinion on that, personally, I'd take boxing behind closed doors. You know, if we had it in some sort of like television studio rather than an empty arena, maybe. You know, totally off subject, but I don't know if you keep up with the WWE. They're taping all their content. They're still going and they're taping it behind closed doors in a much smaller arena. You know, and I think if the lighting's done correct and everything else, I think we can forsake the fans being there, so we can get the fights made at the right time. You know, the perfect example of that being Dubois and Joyce, like we discussed earlier. I'd happily take that fight in a television studio kind of setting to make sure we get the fight at the right time for the fighters physically and mentally, as opposed to just having the fans there as well.
I was the same until I watched so I don't keep up with WWE, but I do watch UFC. And they did an event in it was UFC Brasilia. They did it behind closed doors, and there was nobody in the arena, and it was really weird. So there's like 13 fights on the card, and there's only one finish. Everything else was a decision. It was like all of it was like glorified sparring. Nobody seemed to get up for the fight. Everyone seemed to just be like tentative, like they were sparring, and it was bizarre. And they had like Michael Bisping coming in, going, "Make some noise," and then there was nobody there. It was quite bizarre. And my other reservation with it is the doctors that we need. Obviously, you need ringside doctors, and with a global pandemic, I'd hate to think that those doctors were, you know, in a boxing ring where they should be in a hospital saving people's lives. That would be my only other reservation. I wouldn't like to take doctors away from the NHS to you know, facilitate our entertainment in a boxing ring.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely second that second part. You know, I wouldn't forsake having any kind of medical personnel at a boxing event over a hospital. You know, I was taking it as a given that, you know, this would have passed, but we wouldn't have had like mass social gatherings. Of course, if it comes to a choice of where these doctors and nurses, you know, the great work that they're doing day in, day out, 100%, like, boxing shouldn't go ahead, or any kind of, you know, non-essential key workers should be out and about until this is passed. So yeah, that goes without saying.
Yeah, so the next question was about UKAD and the WBC Clean Athlete Program, which is sponsored by VADA. They've all announced that they're not doing any testing, obviously with the virus, and you know, having their testers out in the field would be jeopardising their health. So they were just asking, how do you think that affects the upcoming fights? And that this was Mojo Rising as well. How do you think that affects the upcoming fights with having fighters for a prolonged period of time not being tested?
I think that's another great question. So, you know, thanks to Mojo for that again. I think there's two ways of looking at this. You know, we can have our blinkers on and try and pretend that, you know, everyone's going to follow the rules without being checked upon them. They're all going to have the greater good of boxing at heart. And we just know that's not true. You know, Jarrell Miller, Povetkin, you know, the list goes on and on of boxers that have failed tests. We can only hope that boxers don't take advantage of this. They don't juice. They don't take any kind of performance-enhancing drug. What's your take on that?
I don't think it's as serious as some people have made it out, because obviously with PEDs, again, I'm not a scientist, I don't really know, but my understanding of steroids is that you have to be training in the gym as well, in order to get the benefits. All right?
Yeah, of course.
There's no gyms, and nobody can work out, you know, how much effect can a PED have if all you're doing is running and doing press-ups. I don't know how much the steroids can affect you, so I think that maybe it's been a bit more overhyped. And yeah, the only other thing is, how do you access it? If you can't go outside, how are you meeting your steroid dealer? And I don't know. I don't know very much about it.
Is that how it happens? Do you meet your dealer on the street to get you performance-enhancing drugs?
That's what I mean. For world champions to get the performance-enhancing drugs, I don't know. But that's not me. They're the reservations that I do have. I'm not sure how, you know, I think everyone's in the same boat, and I'm not sure how people would get, you know, how sneaky boxers would use it to get the edge. But I'm not sure. I think it's maybe being blown a little bit out of proportion by some people.
Yeah, fair point.
So we have Liam, who is one of the writers at Eat Sleep Box Repeat, Liam Gilvisian, one. I'm sorry if I've murdered your last name. And he's put, what time scale do you legitimately want to see boxing back on the television? And do you still see all the fights that have been postponed going ahead at a later date?
I think in terms of when do I want to see the fights or boxing return, as soon as possible, but as safe as possible. You know, we don't want to forsake any kind of medical personnel, as we've already mentioned, you know, being took away from where they need most. We don't want fans, boxers, anybody coming into contact with each other when it's not safe. So I can't really put a time frame on it. Technically, as a fan, I'd love to see fights put back on tomorrow. Of course I would. But thinking logically, it can only be put down as soon as possible when it's as safe as possible. In terms of the fights, we've had rescheduled fights now already. There's a number of fights that haven't received dates, and I was kind of liking the idea of if we had some sort of like bumper pay-per-view events. If we put some of these fights together and just had some really, really mega cards throughout July and the back end of June, if possible, if that's when we are looking at getting boxing back on, and having some really, really beefy cards and getting the fights made as soon as possible, so we can get back onto the road to where boxing was.
I agree. I think it's just when the government and the science dictate. I can't give a time frame on that. Again, we've seen in this podcast, I'm absolutely terrible with science. I don't know anything about it. But when the science dictates, we can have mass events, we can have concerts, we can have boxing events. That's when we should do it. But I totally agree with bumper cards. I think that Dylan White-Povetkin, that should be chief support for AJ Pulev, whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Just stick big fights on big fights. You have events. You have Avanessi and Kelly as the chief supporter for Usyk Chisora. Do you know what I mean? Just stack them cards up. You start 4 in the afternoon, you go till midnight, and you'll keep everyone all the way. If you have that quality, you'll keep them. And that boxing fans will be a lot happier to pay the pay-per-view rather than pay 4. They'll pay 2 massive ones because they get all the fights. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
I think it's better for business, and I think it's better for the boxers. I think if we stack those shows, I think that's only ever going to be a good thing.
Yeah. We got any more questions there to go through?
We've got a few. Yeah, I've got one of JJ Neal, who's another boxing writer, very good writer, and he was assuming the Olympics don't get cancelled. Well, they have been moved, but he asked that before. Who do you think is our best chance of a gold medal?
I think the obvious one, and he's been around for a number of years now, is it Fraser Clark at heavyweight? He seems like he's got a really interesting backstory. I've listened to him on a couple of podcasts and watched a couple of interviews. Really, really interesting backstory. Really, really experienced in the amateur game. I think he's the most obvious. I think you yourself might have a couple of different opinions, but for me, I'd love to see him finally break through and get that gold medal. Yeah,
he's brilliant, Fraser, but he's been really unlucky because he missed out to AJ in 2012 and then George in 2016. He's really unlucky, but obviously the McCormack brothers are big favourites, especially Patrick. He's meant to be very, very good. I've seen him a couple of times, very good. But my personal pick was Peter McGrail. They call him Skauschenko. He's a little Scouse lad, and he's brilliant. 23 years old, so he's just the right time to hit the Olympics. And his footwork, his ins and outs, and he really gets stuck in, which in an amateur bout he's a brilliant little fighter. Hopefully he has qualified, and the IOC have confirmed today that anyone that did qualify before everything got shut down retains their qualification place, so he won't have to qualify again. So hopefully it'll be even fresher coming into the next Olympics in 2021. Peter McGrail, he'd be my pick for a gold medal. I think he's absolutely exceptional.
Fantastic.
The Boxing Lowdown asked, this is a massive one, but the Boxing Lowdown asked, he's done a piece on Matchroom versus Frank Warren, and their biggest talents at the same weight classes. So he asked he said, for a big card, Fury AJ, Akoli Massey, Buatsi Yard, Smith Richards, Cash Williams, and Ritson versus Carroll. Ritson versus Cattrall even. I know it's a lot, but
let's go through them one by one. Start from the bottom, and we'll work our way up. And we'll just give a one name answer, just so we can make sure we get through them all.
So, Lewis Ritson versus Jack Cattrall.
Jack Cattrall.
I think he boxes his head off. Felix Cash versus Liam Williams.
Oh, Liam Williams. 100%.
Different level. I'm totally in the same boat, Liam Williams. And the same the next one, I think. I think we'll both be in the same boat. Callum Smith versus Lerone Richards, the British champion versus the world champion.
Yeah, Lerone Richards, big shout out to Lerone Richards. I think he's a great prospect, but, different levels at this moment in time. Callum Smith.
I agree. I think that's not a pretty watch. I think Callum Smith is levels above and does serious damage. But I say the same about the Liam Williams one. Buatsi in Yard, which is incredible as a light heavyweight fight.
So we're going to keep it nice and short. Buatsi,
I'm the same. Buatsi. It's a hard one though.
Yeah.
Coley versus Massey.
Very ugly fight. Okola.
Same. Horrible watch, but Lawrence Okolie. And then Fury AJ, I think we've covered that one.
What was the top one again?
Fury AJ.
Anthony Joshua.
Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury doesn't lose
We'll
a
be
round.
absolutely shut down for that. I had enough of that from the team at SimBoxx last night. Never mind everybody else.
Yeah, well, he lives 20 minutes down the road from me. I can't not support him.
No, 100%. I support both guys, but we said we're going to keep it short and sweet. Just give one name, no reason behind it. I just go Anthony Joshua.
Yeah. So Matt Goddard at Matt Goddard Fitness, put about the importance of profile and how it's played a part in boxers' careers, for some for the good, some for the worse, and just sort of how some people have used that kind of profile and the celebrity of being a fighter to their advantage, and some people it's really torn them down. Yeah,
100%. I think social media as a whole is such a massive tool. As we well know, it's what we do. It's where we've come from. If a boxer uses the available channels, not only his own access to social media, but platforms like ourselves, Southwest Boxing Media, East League Boxing Repeat, Gloves Red up in Scotland, and then up to the bigger channels like British Boxing TV and IFL. If you use these kind of outlets correctly, you can portray an image that might surpass your in-ring capabilities, and therefore if you bring a following and you sell tickets, you're going to afford yourself better opportunities. Look at the Benoit Bomber, Joseph Laws, such a huge following, but he's not been around a British title as yet, he's not been around an English title as yet, but he's been on some matchroom undercards. He's got a great following. Southwest Boxing Media there, again, perfect example. Dave Allen, look at the opportunities that he's earned because of his social media following. Great shout. He beat me to it. Dave Allen is the king of it. But if you look back at history, profile doesn't always have to be, like I say, this is my thing, profile doesn't always have to be the social media. Some fighters can use their profile as a weapon. Muhammad Ali is the example. He used his profile as a weapon because everybody wanted to be around him, and he was comfortable with that. And he used it because his opponents weren't comfortable. Hector Macho Camacho, he loved the attention, and he used it as a weapon against his opponents. Floyd Mayweather Jr. most recently, comfortable in the spotlight where others weren't comfortable. And I think that some people start to believe their own hype. I think the key to your profile is to not losing your head in that profile is don't believe your own hype. Because Nassim Hamed, one of the greatest prospects, the greatest fighters Britain's ever produced, unbelievable talent in the ring. He started to believe his own hype. Marco Antonio Barrera went, I don't believe your hype, and just absolutely smashed him to bits. And so it's one of those things. It's if you believe your own hype and you believe that profile and you become that person, you have to know that you have the skills to back it up. Like Naz, he believed his own hype and he stopped training. And that's been repeated. That's Tyson, Foreman, Moore and McClellan, Jermaine Taylor, all of these fighters who've had that, and they start to believe their own hype and they get shot straight down. As soon as you think you're the baddest man on the planet, that's when you're most at risk for some people. Some people can use it, and other people can't. That was my take on kind of the history of that profile. Definitely agree with that. And, a perfect example of following along from that, another shout from Southwest Boxing Media is, do you think Josh Kelly believes his own hype already? Really interesting question. We've already given a slight take on it. But I think at the minute, he does seem to fall into that category of a Prince Naz wannabe, a Floyd Mayweather wannabe. If he can go on to show the other side to boxing, the grittier side to his game, then he can afford himself, the flamboyance and the outpouring of confidence. We can take that as long as he can show both sides to his game. So another good shout from Southwest Boxing Media. Absolutely, I think he does believe his own hype, and I think that's why he's had his ass handed to him a couple of times, and he's had really tough fights against guys that have no right giving him a tough fight. So so Greg. GND 1989, the predictor at East League Boxing Repeat, he put, we were so close to a modern fabulous four with Morales, Barrera, Marquez and Pacquiao. The only fight that didn't happen was Morales versus Marquez, so Eric Morales, Juan Manuel Marquez. How do we see that fight going? We could sit here and go back and forth on which stage he'd fight, but prime against prime, I'm going to go with Morales. I think Eric Morales would. My head, would be, it's one more Marquez. I was in a bit of a head versus heart one. I think Morales is, for me, my favourite, probably. I think he's a reckless nutter in the ring. He's brilliant. But I think Marquez was quicker, more sharp, moving. He had that head movement, the foot, his entrances and exits, like we saw in that Pacquiao fight where he kind of exploded into him at exactly the right time to light hand. I think I'd take Marquez, but I'd prefer Morales to win. Yeah, great question though. Big
again,
shout out
same
to
as the last. Yeah, the last one, the same as the last one that we had last time that we didn't answer, was top 5 fantasy fights of all time. And there's a few, and I think we'll give him, because Boxer Fan, it's a massive topic, but do a few, we'll do a couple each. Ultimate fantasy fights. Yeah,
no problem. So, I think, as we've mentioned a couple of times, I'm always more likely to rely on recent boxing history, as you're opposed to, you're our boxing historian here at SimBoxx. So I think the first fight is a What If Wednesday that we put out today on the Twitter feed. Vitaly Klitschko against Mike Tyson. Take Mike Tyson at 20 years of age against a Vitaly Klitschko that fought just after the Lewis fight, which I think is when he was at his best. I think that's a great heavyweight dust-up. So that'd be one of mine. I think I'm trying to think of something a little bit different, because it's easy to say something like a Sugar Ray Leonard and Floyd Mayweather, which would have been a great fight. Valero and Pacquiao, I think that's unbelievable. It's violence written all over it. Edmund Valero. Pardon?
It's so close to happening as well.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. So that'd be my two choices.
Yeah, mine are all a little bit old-timey. I want to see Jack Dempsey, Jack Johnson. It's like an old-time. It's cheating because he said not Ali Tyson. I think that Jack Dempsey versus Jack Johnson is an old-timey version of Ali versus Tyson. The stocky squat brawler against the long, tall boxer. Armstrong, Duran at lightweight, the two greatest lightweights of all time. Henry Armstrong, pressure fighter, tight in the clinch, good boxing ability, good boxing brain, and the same can be said of Duran. That's my one. And the last one is Prime Ali versus Prime Larry Holmes. I know it happened late, and it was a terribly sad fight to watch because Ali's already got Parkinson's disease at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But a 1966 Ali versus a 1982-3 Larry Holmes. What a fight that would have been. The two greatest outside boxers in heavyweight history.
Yeah, 100%. And just another bonus one chucked in there again from Southwest Boxing Media. Joe Calzaghe against Andre Ward. I think it's a great fight. It's one that could have possibly happened, if the stars had aligned a bit earlier. I don't see many people beating Joe Calzaghe. He just figured out everybody. I think Calzaghe beats Andre Ward.
I agree. Calzaghe beat Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones Jr., who are, just for me, slightly better versions of Andre Ward. Slightly smaller, but slightly better. I think that if you can beat Roy Jones Jr. and Bernard Hopkins, even in their old age, you can beat Andre Ward. Yeah,
I think, just a quick one to add on that. I think if Joe Calzaghe and Roy Jones was fought 10 years previous, I think Roy Jones beats him with one hand behind his back.
I think it's a close fight. I think it's still a close fight. But again, an earlier Roy Jones, I favour Roy Jones in that fight. But I think it's closer than you'd think. But again, Andre Ward mirrors an older Roy Jones Jr. or an older Bernard Hopkins in just the way he fought.
Yeah, I think the comparison between Bernard Hopkins and Andre Ward, I think that's a great comparison. But I'm slightly biased with the Roy Jones thing because Roy Jones is pound for pound one of my all-time favourite boxers. So therefore, at his peak, I don't see a middleweight or even maybe a light heavyweight that lives with him at his very, very best, which was at 168 pounds, of course.
They're for me the two 12-stone fighters ever. It goes down to them at 12 stone for me. They're the two names, Calzaghe and Roy Jones Jr. at their prime. Yeah,
100%. Do we have any more questions?
So Eubank Senior versus Saunders. Eubank Senior knocks him into next week.
Obliterates him. He might get frustrated for the first 3 or 4 rounds, but the engine, the power, the chin, Eubank Senior.
He's sung from a bad name. He was a bad man in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. Is that David Haye against Holyfield at cruiserweight? Who lands first? I think on paper I'd definitely say Amanda Holyfield, much more accomplished, much more decorated boxer. But David Haye had the power to knock anybody out at cruiserweight. But if I'm gun to my head, I'd have to make a prediction. Evander Holyfield would beat David Haye.
Holyfield smashes into bits inside 3 rounds. No contest.
Interesting. Do we have any more questions from the Twitter feed?
That was the last one I had written down. Is it? Yeah, it was the last one I had written down. So we didn't have many this week, but some of them we could have gone on for hours and hours on.
Oh, 100%. I think in that case, quickly like to give a couple of shout outs. Here at SimBoxx, we're always here to help. Budding social media channels or anybody that needs bits of advice or any kind of pointers in the right direction. But at the same time, we're also always looking for kind of bits of advice, and then if people like take us on board and show us the kind of right direction. So we was live a second ago. Unfortunately, we seem to have lost the connection. We was on the cusp of giving our shout out, so it's literally the worst time for us to have lost our connection. Hopefully, Ewan is able to jump on again soon. If not, like I said, there was a couple of shout outs that I was hoping to give. First and foremost, I'd like to give a shout out to Kieran Farrell. Again, he was allowing us into his shows, getting unrivaled access and content at his events. He's always great to let us speak boxes, and big shout out to Kieran Farrell, who's been there from the start with SimBoxx and really give us a foot up in the boxing media game, getting interviews and unrivaled access at the gyms. Ewan.
Sorry, I'm not sure what happened there. It just went off, but
yeah,
absolutely. Kieran Farrell, what a gent, absolutely brilliant, absolute unfettered access at the last Roll in the Dice show, which was brilliant. It was the last hurrah for British boxing. Yeah. What a show it was. Lee Clayton and Sean Cairns. I know Lee's a member of the team now, but what a fight! 3 rounds of pure violence. It was, and then I was ringside for that, and it was incredible. So a massive shout out to Kieran.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the content that you got there was brilliant. Of course, you got the opportunity to speak to Amir Khan. One of the best British boxers of the past 20 years. One of the most decorated boxers of all time in Great Britain. Stuff like this, where, if we was to go back 2 years before SimBoxx existed, and we were sitting on the couch watching the boxes, and that we're now getting access to interviewing. So, big shout out to Kieran Farrell. I'd like to add there that we're going to be speaking to Kieran later on in the week. We're going to bring some more exclusive content with Kieran, interviews with his stable and with himself. I look forward to speaking to him, and also Nathan Farrell, his younger brother as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd just like to mention Amir Khan, absolute gent. I accidentally deleted the video like a moron. And then Amir Khan went, "Oh yeah, no worries, mate. I'll do another one." Did another little interview with me. He gets a bad rap. Everyone hates Amir Khan, but he's an absolute gent. I've got nothing but good things to say about him.
Yeah, superb. I was at home at the time when you was covering the show for us, and I was over the moon when we was able to get that kind of content for SimBoxx. So well done on that. I think another guy I want to give a shout out to is Alan Payne. I think he's on Instagram as Champ Snaps. I've got that correct. He does a lot of work with Gloves Red, which is a boxing social media platform up in Scotland. Shout out to those guys as well. But recently, when we decided to get the amount of content out and the amount of SimBoxx Talk 2 episodes and articles out, that Alan Payne was the first to jump on board and give us access to the guys at St Andrews Amateur Boxing Club. People like Nathaniel Collins and Martin Harkin. So big shout out to Alan Payne, and I hope the guys go and follow his work. He does the 12 rounds with, which is his interview segment. Great work, some great names involved. So big shout out to Alan Payne.
Absolutely.
And finally, we always go back to it, but the guys have been great with us from the beginning. We're going to be working with them more and more moving forward. The guys that Eat, Sleep, Box and Repeat, Sean, Greg, Elliot and the rest of the team, great work, and they're really establishing themselves on the scene with social media. They're always good for bits of advice and help along the way. And again, first and foremost, they bring really, really good content. Yeah, brilliant. They're always great guys who always come up with brilliant content themselves, and they're always first to jump in to help us on our content. And like I say, 2 of their writers asking questions today and stuff. They're always really knowledgeable boxing fans and really knowledgeable contributors. Yeah, definitely. And finally, Southwest Boxing Media. I like the guys down there. Doing their thing in Wales. They might not have the amount of boxes that we have access to in the Northwest. We're kind of blessed with Liverpool and Manchester as a hotbed for boxing talent. But they're continuing to build like their own platform down there. They're getting their own access to fighters and gyms and bringing content. So I'd like to give a shout out to them and wish them the best and keep bringing the good work. And again, it's another platform that we'll be doing joint ventures with in the future.
Yeah, great.
Definitely. So, just to finish with, I'd just like to say, well done to the team. The amount of content, again, that we've been bringing, the interviews, everyone's played the part. Really enjoyed it. I hope the followers of SimBoxx have enjoyed it. Some really great names have already took part, and there's more to come. So, keep following SimBoxx, and we'll be sure to keep bringing top quality, regular content for our followers.
Yeah, can't wait to be involved.
Fantastic, Ewan. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to touch on.
Nope. Follow us both on Twitter.
That's it.
At rebelboxing1. What's yours?
So obviously, of course, at SimBoxx, and we're at Luke_SimBoxx as well for my own channel. But yeah, just thanks to everyone for being involved. Thanks to everyone for tuning in today. We're going to pop this over on the YouTube channel as well. And yeah, thanks for taking part in the live podcast. And it didn't go too bad.
Yeah, apart from when I accidentally shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, no problem. You take care, buddy.
Cheers, and you.
Speak soon. Bye bye.